All right, welcome back everybody. Here's our next step on our textured slab mug. So I'm already attached the base, but now I've let it sit in the bag for a little while and it's equaled out. It's dried out a little bit, but not very much. But now is a good time for me to start thinking about how I want to finish the base in relationship to the rest of the actual mug. And then also start looking at some of the other things that might be there. Like that side is where the seam is, and that's probably where I'm going to establish the area where I'm going to put my mug handle. So I'm thinking about where, the location of the handle and everything like that. Now, I have to remove some of this clay again. And I'm going to do it at that 45-degree angle again. So it matches the slope of the mug and that angled wall that's the bottom part of my mug. So I'm carefully holding my knife at a 45-degree angle or similar to the slope of already established wall on the mug. And I'm taking that clay off. And you have to be very careful with this because sometimes your hand can slide around a little bit and you might take a little bit too much clay or not quite enough clay, and you still have to kind of finalize the shape and fix the shape a little bit as you go. So I'm taking that little buildup of clay that was the extra from the original slab, and now I've kind of angled it so I've continued that same slope and that same line that the wall already had before I attached my slab. There's going to be a little bit more cleanup to do, and I'm just going to take my knife carefully and just start to find where I need to establish a better edge and start smoothing things out once I get to that point. If I have to, I'm going to be able to do some more later once I have the handle attached, or when I do my final cleanup where all the seams and everything need to be wiped clean. But right now I'm just trying to make sure the blade is taking most of the clay off, but not everything, and then just readjusting things as I go. Very slow process in the sense of trying to adjust things without removing too much clay. Then I'm just going to smooth it out, use my thumb. Thumbs works pretty well, just trying to establish a nice smooth surface, and then I'm going to start planning for the handle in just a second. I'm looking on the inside to see if there's anything else in there. I'm going to take my wooden modeling tool probably and start cleaning out some of the inside. So I can use that kind of almost like a finger kind of shape to it of the modeling tool and start sliding it back and forth into the base where the square bottom is established. I need to get rid of some of that slip and some of that buildup down there. And so I'm just carefully, lightly, kind of tracing out that base and that square shape that I have already made when I did the darting of the base. All right, so it's pretty much done on the inside, pretty much done on the outside. Not completely finished, but pretty much. Just trying to make... Now there is an option also. You could possibly do an attached foot that flares back out. You could put a coil or a little framed piece of clay, like a hollow kind of border frame, and you could try to put that on there to make it a little bit more stable, because this base is a little small, but it still is going to function just fine. Now I'm going to start thinking about my handle. Okay, you got your coil that you need to make. Take a little wad of clay from your bag, and then start to create a carrot-like shape with your coil. Remember, you need to make sure it tapers from one side to the other, so it's a little bit thinner on one side, a little bit thicker on the other, and then you're going to cut away what you need. So this is a little bit bigger than it's going to need to be, and you always want to have a little extra. And I'm trying to smooth out any creases and trying to establish a good smooth surface before I start to flatten this coil that's round. I'm going to make it a little bit more flat on two sides. So I'm going to use the sponge, wipe it clean a little bit, and then just kind of compress and kind of test the shape of how much clay I'm going to need for my handle. So here's the compression part. I'm gonna flip it over, do it on both sides. Testing it out still, making sure I have enough actual handle to work with. And then I'm gonna smooth it out. And then I'm gonna add some of the texture that I used on the outside of my mug. I'm gonna use the same thing on the surface of my handle. So there's a little bit of I guess, continuity to the mug and the handle, so they go together. So I'm going to take the same things that I used before, that rolling texture stamp, and this other textured design. I'm just going to lightly press it in, so you get a little bit of that texture, and then I'm going to work a little bit more of the stamp onto it before I start to bend the shape into an actual handle. I'm going to remove with my wire cutter the excess clay I don't need, put that clay back eventually in the bag, and then I'm shaping my handle to hopefully establish a good position for the mug. Test things out first, and I'm going to put it right over the seam. So the seam that was the original seam of putting the cylinder together, I'm going to kind of cover up that seam with my handle. Trace out where you want it with the needle tool, remove it, leave it on the table. You can leave that on there for a little while it's still like kind of drying out, or you can go ahead and start scoring the surface of both parts with your wire brush. Then do the same thing on the connection areas of your handle. Crisscross, kind of an X pattern, and then get your slip out, dab on a good chunk of slip to make sure that this handle is going to stay stuck on there, and then very carefully, don't crush your handle and don't crush your mug, but very carefully support it as you compress the connection against the wall of your mug. And I'm going to establish kind of a new shape without altering it too much. I'm going to remove the excess clay I don't want with the side of the needle tool, and then I'm going to just keep on working on establishing the shape that I want for my handle before it starts to dry out. Try not to clean up the slip right now. You want to leave that alone. Give it some time to equal out with the rest of the actual form, and then just kind of clean up your area. All right, thanks. Good luck. Bye.